Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome aboard the Millennium Dawn. That is the boat you're travelling on tonight, down to the tower. Now we have just left the piers, so we aren't obliged by law just to give you a short safety announcement. Okay, now we don't do this to alarm you, we just need to tell you that the vessel you are travelling on is fully equipped with the most modern and up-to-date life-saving and firefighting equipment. This comes in the form of fire extinguishers, which you will find in the lower saloon. These are easy identifiable as they're marked in the international green and white. We carry enough life jackets on board. These are all in the marked life jacket lockers which are dotted around the vessel. They are marked in the international green and white. And in the unlikely event of any emergency, you will be instructed by a fully trained and qualified crew member. Okay, so if there's any sorts of emergencies, please do not panic. Please let the crew get off first. Okay. Right, now on the way down to the tower, we do pass by one or two places of interest. Unfortunately for you, the owners of these vessels, they will not pay to have tour guides aboard. There are no professional guides on these boats. So what they do, they give you a leaflet. On that leaflet, along with some information and a map, there is a QR code. So what you're supposed to do with your phone is log into the boat's Wi-Fi, download the app, and download the automated commentary in around 15 different languages, in a language of your choice. Now, we seem to get better feedback if we do a live commentary, okay, because we know through experience by the time it takes some of you to download this app and get through to this commentary, we would have already reached our destination. You would have taken a mystery tour, where you would have spent the whole journey trying to download that. So as I said, there are no professional guides. Me and my colleague Dave, we are just licensed Thames watermen. We are here for your safety and your safety only, okay? It's very important that I tell you that. I am not a commentator, I am not a tour guide, and I do not claim to be. I am just a member of the crew. So please bear with me if I do make one or two mistakes. Now over to the right here, we see this building. That is of course the Houses of Parliament, to give it its proper name, the new Palace at Westminster. The building you see there was opened in the early 1860s, and it was a replacement for the old wooden Parliament building, which stood on the same site, and it stood there for nearly 800 years before being destroyed in a fire. The main feature of this building is the clock tower, known throughout the world as Big Ben. And the proper name for that is the Queen Elizabeth Tower. Big Ben is only the name of a 13.5-ton bell inside that tower, and it chimes on the hour and the hour only. Quarter past, half past, and quarter to bells you hear on board the Westminster Chimes. So as we turn the vessel around, the bridge to our right, this is the Westminster Road Bridge, the only bridge to span the River Thames, which has 7 arches. Each arch is named after the day. So as we turn the boat around, we will be heading downstream. We are heading in an easterly direction with the outgoing ebb tide. The tide is now going out to the North Sea, so it will be pushing to the side. So as we do this, the building to the right here, the Green Spire, this is County former headquarters of the GLC, the Greater London Council. They were abolished in 1986. This building sat there empty for many, many years. It's now been taken over by the Merlin Entertainment Group, and it houses such tourist attractions as Shrek's Adventure, the London Aquarium, London Dungeon, and there are a couple of small restaurants and a hotel, all within this one. Still to the right, the wheel Ferris wheel. That is the London Eye. It was built in 1999 by British Airways, and it was put there inside around the millennium celebrations for the year 2000. Now the wheel extends 450 does have 32 locomotives. 32 isn't a random number, it has 32 because each one of those pods actually represents a number bone. And there are indeed 32 number bones which make up Greater London as a whole. So this building here to the left, this impressive Gothic style building, this is number 1 Whitehall Court Mentions. When it was built, it was the first apartments ever to be built on the banks of the River Thames. It was the one-time home of Lloyd George and also the Liberal Club. Today, the building houses the 5-star All-Stars Hotel. Now, the first bridge we're going to pass beneath today on our journey down the river is the Charing Cross Railway Bridge. Charing Cross mainline station is housed within that futuristic building to our left. Now as we pass beneath this very busy rail system, we do in fact pass over a rail system. A section of the London Underground crosses beneath the Thames at this point. It's a section of the Bakerloo and Waterloo Pier. Now in a moment, once we are through the bridge, once we have passed through the bridge, over to our right, you can see there is a glass fronted building. This building is of course the Royal Festival Hall, and it's the last remaining building from the 1951 Festival of Great Britain. It is a concert hall and it's fully soundproofed, owing to the noisy rail system which runs parallel to it. The building is said to have some of the finest acoustic stock over on the left here, on the river's wall, see there is a stone column, a stone at Needle. That is in fact Cleopatra's Needle. It's over 3,500 years old. It's carved out in ancient Egypt. It was given to this country by a great Egyptian government to commemorate Nelson's defeat over the French at the Battle of Normandy. These stone obelisks were always carved and twin to this one can be found in Central Park, New York. Now this next bridge we will shortly be passing beneath. This one is the Waterloo Road Bridge. It is the longest and widest bridge to span this section of the River Thames. It was built during the Second World War years of 1939 to 1945. So it was mainly built by women, owing to the fact that most of our men they were away fighting. As we come through the bridge over to our left, another impressive building with a green dome on the roof. That one is Somerset House, built in 1715, originally built as a residence of the Duke of Somerset. In more recent years, the building has become government's offices. Now over to the right, this concrete building with the illuminated sign. That is our National Theatre. There is actually 3 theatres in that one building, including the impressive 1,400-seater Olympic Theatre. Now ahead of us, to the left, so slightly ahead of us, you can see there is a large white ship with a single yellow funnel. She is the HMS Wellington. She was a former sloop from the New Zealand Navy, gifted to this country nearly 70 years ago. She's been over there ever since, and at one time was a floating livery hall for the Honourable Company of Master Mariners. Those are of course the old retired ship's captains. Now as we pass by the Wellington, okay, once we go past the Wellington, look on the river's wall to the stern of the Wellington where you see the red ensign flag, and There you'll see on the river's wall a stone arch, and on that arch there is a carved face. That is the face of old Father Thames. He's looking down upon his river, and the arch is known as Temple Arch. Well, that does in fact mark an official boundary line between two cities, which is the city of Westminster we've just left, and the city of London we've just entered. Now, the city of London is one of the smallest capital cities in the world. It measures an area of just 1 square mile, and it's often referred to as the Magic Mile. As being one of the smallest capital cities in the world, it is also one of the richest. Okay, so as we make our way down River now through the city of London, still over to our left you can see some buildings. There's a red Gothic style building. So it looks a bit like a church. It does have a stained glass window, and that is Sion College, and it is in fact a library, and it houses over 3,000 rare and famous books, including Queen Victoria's personal diaries, her Bible. Still to the left, the building next to Sion College with the green roof and single black pinnacle, that is the old City of London School of Boys. Once a very exclusive and prestigious school, many famous people have been educated in that building over the years. Today the building is no longer a school, and it's owned by the wealthy American bank JP Morgan. Now, this next bridge we will shortly be passing through is the Blackfriars Road Bridge, opened by Queen Victoria in 1869. And it is in fact the second bridge to have stood on this site. Now, in a moment, once we pass through the Blackfriars Road Bridge, if you look either side of us, you will notice there are some red supports. These supports are all that remain of the St Paul's Railway Bridge. This bridge carried the first trains across the River Thames. The bridge became unsafe in the early 1940s, so they removed the top pieces. They wasn't able to remove this college through fear of damaging the foundations of these other two bridges. Now, the next bridge we are just going through, we're just passing beneath the Blackfriars Railway Bridge. And as we come through the bridge, look to the left, and dominating the London skyline. There before you see the large and impressive dome of St Paul's Cathedral. That dome is in fact the second largest unsupported cathedral dome in the world. The first is on St Peter's in the Vatican City of Rome. St Paul's is of course Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece. It took 35 years to build. 12 years was just the construction of the dome. St Paul's was opened in 1710. It stands 365 feet high, 1 foot for each bay of the year. Over here to the right, this big building with the chimney, that was once the old Bankside Power Station, opened in the late 1940s, fell into disuse in the late 1970s, was a listed building, which means it could never have been demolished. So it sat there in a state of dereliction for many, many years, and in more recent years has gone on to house the Tate Modern, which is a modern art gallery for viewing modern artefacts. It is entirely free to go in that building. Once you've entered into that building, you can spend around 10 minutes having a look around until you realise exactly why it is free. Here to the right, this white timber-framed building with the thatched roof. That is the new Globe Theatre, all funded by the American film director and producer Sam Wanamaker. It's an exact working replica of Shakespeare's Globe Playhouse Theatre, which stood somewhere near this site over 400 years ago. The building you see today opened its doors in 1997. And as I said, it is a working theatre. You can actually buy tickets and go in there and see some of Shakespeare's plays being reenacted. This next bridge we will shortly be passing beneath. Well, this is the Southern Road Bridge. It was opened in the mid-1920s and it was originally built to ease the congestion of the old London Bridge. Today this is the narrowest and least used of all London's bridges, owing to the fact that the approach roads are so hard to find, nestled between London's office buildings on the Waterloo Pier. So we have just come through the Southern Road Bridge. Now we look to the right so we can see there is a brown building. You see it has red windows. That is the Anchor Inn at Bankside, one of London's oldest riverside inns. Parts of the pub date back to 1615, and it was in the original building in the attic rooms. But Shakespeare and his plays were used to change when performing their plays at the old Glory Theatre. Now we are just passing beneath Cannon Street Railway Bridge, and as we do this, over to our right, coming into view, you can see the stern and the masts of what look to be a very old ship. That ship isn't as old as it looks. It was built in 1971 in Appledore, North Devon. Okay, it's a complete working replica of Sir Francis Drake's Golden Hind. Now when I say working replica, it's because that ship there has actually circumnavigated the globe twice, which was once more in the original Golden Hind. Now this next bridge we will be passing beneath. This is London Bridge, and it was opened in 1973 by our late Queen Elizabeth II, and it is the 5th London bridge to have stood on or near this site. The first one was built here by the Romans over 2,000 years ago. Actually fell down, of course. The most famous of all the bridges was the one that stood here before this one, and it was sinking into the Thames Mud. So in 1968, it was sold to a wealthy American called Robert McCulloch. He had the bridge taken down, he had each piece numbered, shipped over to America, and it now spans part of Lake Havasu in the Arizona desert. It's actually lit out as a tourist attraction. Now over here to the right, look towards the skyline and you see the large tower. That is the Shard. I know it looks unfinished, but it is actually supposed to look like that. It's there to represent a shard of glass. The building stands 1,015 feet high. That officially makes it the tallest building in Western Europe. It is mainly a complex of offices. However, there is a hotel, a couple of restaurants and some very luxurious apartments all within that building. Now those apartments are actually sold for between 20 and 30 billion pounds each. So it is a very desirable place to live, with direct views over the city of London. The ship ahead of us, this large grey warship, she is the HMS Belfast. She was built in the Harland and Wolff shipyards in Belfast, Northern Ireland, constructed in 1938, commissioned on the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939. She was the largest battle cruiser ever built for the Royal Navy. Her main armament, that consists of 12 6-inch guns. You can see she has 6 on the front. She has an identical 6 on the stern end, the back end. Each one of those guns could fire a 100-weight shell a distance of 14 miles. She saw quite a lot of action during the Second World War, but was most famously involved in the hunting down, the chasing, the shelling and the eventual sinking of the German battleship Scharnhorst. She last fired those powerful guns in anger during the early 1950s during the Korean campaign. She's been here in the Upper Pool of London since 1972. She's open to the public as a floating museum and is actually open 7 days a week. It is well worth a visit. Now here to the left, ladies and gentlemen, this is our destination. This is Tower Pier. Now what we're going to do, rather than just go straight over to that bit and take our berth, we are going to take you a little bit further downstream. And the reason we do this is to give you a fantastic view and photographic opportunity of this next bridge. I'll give you a little bit of information about this bridge in a moment, but first of all, over here to our left, this building, it is of course the world famous Tower of London. Look to the centre of all the different buildings. You see the 4 turrets, that is the Norman Keep. That is the original part of the Tower of London. It is the oldest part. It dates back to 1078, during the reign of William the Conqueror. Now in its time, the Tower of London has been many things. It's been a palace, fortress, zoo, royal mint. It now houses the crown jewels. Now as promised, my friend is now going to turn the vessel around, and as he does this, if you get your cameras ready and you look to the right, this is where you'll get magnificent views of this next bridge, which of course is Tower Bridge. Opened on the 30th of June 1894. Designed by Sir John Wolfe Barry, built in this Gothic style to blend in with the more famous Tower of London. The bridge also marks the eastern boundary to the City of London, so it's often referred to as the gateway to London. The 2 central spans you can see there, I'm sure you all know, they could be raised or lowered. This can be done in a matter of 90 seconds to allow larger shipping in and out of the upper port of London. Now many years ago, the River Thames was a very busy port. It was a very busy commercial river, and on this section of the Thames we would have had various walls and warehouses lining the banks. Okay? So the reason for the 2 catwalks is so that pedestrians could cross to the other side when the bridge was in the upright position. Pedestrians could use the stairs in the towers and use one of those catwalks to cross to the other side. Now they reckon years ago, in its heyday when the river was very busy, the bridge would have been raised between 30 and 40 times a day. So within 24 hours it would have been raised 30 to 40 times. Now we have turned the vessel around and we will shortly be going alongside the pier. So I must ask you now to all remain seated till we are safely berthed on the pier. This is of course in the interests of safety. Now if you do have single tickets for the tower, this is where you must leave us. This boat will be returning to Westminster. If you do have return tickets, stay on board, okay? Now one final point, okay, it's about the commentary itself. And I expect everybody on board has already gathered this. I am not a professional guide, I am not a commentator, I do not claim to be. Me and my colleague, we are just the crew on this boat. Our job is to transport you safely between points A and B. I've done the commentary purely for your interest and your enjoyment, and to save you from taking that mystery tour I was talking about. So if anybody on board would like to show any form of appreciation for my efforts as your tour guide, you may do so in the very old and very traditional manner here on the Thames, as of when you leave the vessel, I shall be standing by the exit gates with the old captain's silver champagne ice buttons. Now I must stress you are of course under no obligation whatsoever to put anything in this bucket, but anything we receive is always greatly appreciated, and it does give us the incentive to carry on learning and performing these live commentaries. Now if you are leaving us here, make sure you have all your belongings, your phones, your cameras, your hats, your bags, your husbands, your wives, maybe even someone else's husband or wife. And please take all your children, okay? Even the naughty ones. Don't just take the good ones, take the naughty ones. And do have a very safe onward journey. Thank you all for travelling this evening.